All right, hello everybody. We are back with yet another author interview. So this time we are with Ed Isaacs. I will let him introduce himself and his book.
All right. My name is Ed Isaacs. Be publishing as E.J. Isaacs going forward. And my first book is called A New Beginning. Hope to be a series of books, which I'm calling the whole series The Unforgiving Stars. And it's set about 400 years in the future and definitely falls into the genre of space opera, kind of a la Star Trek and Babylon 5 and so forth.
Yeah, and that was exactly what I thought when I first read what you sent to me. I'm like, this is great. This is just reliving, Star Trek episodes and watching the just I had flashbacks of the show. I was raised on Next Generation, so
Right.
seeing all that, and I love Babylon 5. Watched that when it first came out, so it's got some great elements of both. In fact, we start out, not really much of a spoiler here, but we start out with like the this sort of shadowy dominant alien species in the intro of the
Right.
book, which really reminded me of like the shadows and the Vorlons and stuff and Babylon 5. So what went through your mind, putting that together? What was that in terms of the book? And yeah, how did you start
Oh
with
my
that?
goodness. I first put the story elements together literally over the last 30 years. That's how long this has been cooking.
Yeah,
Um, the funny thing is, some of this was already written down before Babylon 5 even came out.
great.
Uh, and I looked at that and I was kind of like, how do they know what I'm thinking?
Yeah.
But the crux of it is that at some point humanity has hit the stars. We have some colony worlds out there in the future, and things are going along pretty well. And then all of a sudden, some of our colonies disappear.
Mm,
And humanity quite literally discovers by showing up at the next colony in line, essentially, that they're in the demilitarized zone of what has been a 1,000-year-long galactic war.
wow.
And there is a whole mess of other species out there which have banded together, the Association of Allied Worlds, against this invasion species that we know very, very little about. And they quickly ask us to join them in the fight. That goes on for approximately 10 years. But humanity is kind of chafing. We're highly restricted on what we can do. They've got some very strange ways of going about things, and certainly don't seem to be doing well. And we come to discover that during this 1,000-year war, the Allies have been losing,
Mm,
which doesn't sit well with us. And
yeah.
so we kind of like go off and in secret create our own tactics, our own updated weapons or whatever to go in to join the battle, and humanity stops the war. I won't give too much away. A lot of that's
Right.
covered in the book.
Yeah.
Um, and then there's a 12-year period of time when kind of peace reigns. The invading species kind of communicates that they want to stop at a particular line in space, clear across the galaxy. They won't come forward. We're not to go into their space. And now it's been 12 years later, and humanity is actually now custom built in a new ship,
Hmm.
um, and is going out to explore for the first time since the war hit them.
Yeah.
And they're still trying to get along with their allies and, make nice with them, although they don't trust them too much. And they're kind of figuring the Angels really aren't done. They're
Right.
not going to stop a 1,000-year war just because we threw some curveballs at them.
Yeah.
And so the ship launches and as you know, gets into various adventures as they go along the way. And
Right.
you'll learn the background of some of the key characters along the way too.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome. Yeah.
but
And
pure
for
space opera stuff.
yeah, for I was gonna say for anybody afraid of spoilers, all that happens before the book. So that's
Yeah, that's
that's
the
what.
precursor. In fact,
Yeah.
I do have rough outline of coming back later and maybe doing a prequel trilogy
Mm,
to cover all of that in more
right.
detail. But but this starts after that 12-year gap is when the story really begins, and you learn a lot about what's gone on in flashback and some of the characters reflecting on that time
Hmm.
as the ship is being launched. So the whole book is, the war has come to a stop. We're now back out exploring, making good with our allies, keeping an eye on the invading species, and things happen.
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of things happen.
A lot of
Um,
things happen. Yeah.
yeah, but and that reminded me also similar to Babylon 5 because that one starts with 10 years
Mm.
after a war. So you get it, again, that's what really reminded me when I was looking at this book of, you have all this rich history that you start to find out more about as you go through the book, but you also have, other further adventures going on from this. So
Oh, yes.
yeah, it's a great mix, and it's on a spaceship rather than a space station, so we get the sense of adventure there. And we have some I don't know, we won't get into it too much. We have some interesting characters. We have the
Yes.
captain, we have the first officer, and follow a lot of different point of views in the book. So it really gets that feeling of like a Star Trek episode or something where you're
Yeah, it's definitely what you call an ensemble cast
hmm
type of thing. And I think my challenge, as you know, is keeping that to the minimum to tell the story.
hmm
But obviously, it's a big ship, a lot of players,
yeah,
um, and you obviously meet more as the books continue. That when they have their part to play, but
right.
they have their own interesting backgrounds and experiences, and of course interrelationships that are going on the ship as it travels.
Yeah. And we actually cut this down, didn't we? Because it was even more POVs when I first got it, and then I recommended to shrink it just a little bit so we could focus on some of
Oh
those
yeah,
really great
absolutely.
characters.
I'm thinking of the entire 5 book arc,
Right.
and what I got trapped in doing is I was introducing characters in book 1, which really you're not going to be seeing much until book 2 or even 3,
Yeah.
and that was totally appropriate. I saved all that stuff. Obviously,
hmm
I'll need it later, but yeah, I definitely need to cut that out and shift some other things around. And you got to realize every book has to stand on its own.
Yeah.
So that was great feedback for me as a first-time writer.
Yeah. And that's what I love to see with people coming into Space Wizard is just all these excellent stories, and I can just from experience say, okay, let's make this
Yep.
even better. Um, but yeah, it's a wonderful story. I really have enjoyed reading it. I've read a couple different iterations now.
And you'll soon be getting the latest. Yep.
Yeah, and I'll be getting the latest. I've been promised, and the next week I'll be getting the next version. Which that one I assume probably we've done a lot of work on this, so that probably won't have too many changes until we get to the final form.
Right.
Um, and this one will be coming out. When did we say? In November.
November. Yes.
Yes. So, a new beginning coming out in November. And tell me again, what's the name of the full series?
The Unforgiving Stars.
Unforgiving Stars. Yes. So, um, we'll be launching into that. Um, and how many books do you have in mind for this?
Right now, I have it scoped out as a 5 book series.
Okay. So that's going to give you a nice long journey
Oh
uh,
yes.
across the universe. We get to see
And
all sorts of.
again, this is set 400 years in the future, and I've actually got a timeline put together, what happens with humanity in that 400 years up to that point,
Yeah.
and lots of ideas for additional stories, short stories, possibly some novel-length things
hmm
within that timeline. Like I said, I quite literally put a few decades into all my background notes. Now I'm finally writing the story.
Yeah. Well, that's what you have to do, right? So Tolkien created a whole language over
You want
20
to
years.
create your
So
whole universe,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Take 20 or 30 years, flesh it all out, and then write a series. I
I
can't
certainly
complain
wish
too
I'd
much.
started a lot sooner in life, but yes.
Yeah. Oh, I did the same thing with my first book. It was probably 20 years in the making. So yeah, it's always great to see that richness in the background that then gets distilled into this book, and you give it out to people, and you're like, well, there's all this other stuff back there,
Right. You're going
but
to give pieces of it, but not the whole thing away.
yeah. But it's great that you have an idea for short stories, other stories, and
Mhm.
we'll see how that comes to pass. Um, those are always good to have as like freebies or little side things that sort of get you interested in the series and give you other points of view. And
Yeah, some of it is like more extensive backgrounds on some of the characters you'll meet in the first book, but was making the book way too large. So,
yeah,
I talk about their background in generalities, but I can actually turn some of their backgrounds into short stories on their own, and that'd be good stuff for, my subscribers.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I always love to know more about the universe and what goes on behind the scenes. So look for A New Beginning coming out. We don't have the cover to show off for this one yet, but we are just about to start on it. It should be started next week, I think. And so we've been putting covers below these interviews, so we won't have one for this, but it will be coming. I should have something to show you all while the campaign is running. So we'll be able to see that. I have a feeling there will probably be a spaceship on the cover.
I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
So yeah, go check out the campaign. You can get A New Beginning. That one's coming out in November. You can get any of the other 6 books that are coming out in this part of the campaign, as well as all of other goodies. You can get any of the other books that are coming out from Space Wizard as well. So look for it, and then we'll also look for maybe some short stories and books 2 through 5, or maybe even more coming in other future years of
Future
Space
campaigns.
Wizard.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Any last words or final thoughts before we wrap this up?
Nope. Uh, I know you're going to put the link to my website out there, and I'll also put other events that you can find me at if you want to talk to me in more generalities, or
Yeah.
obviously, put pre-orders in for the book. I'm more than happy to meet and talk to people at some of the events I go to.
Yeah, so we will put those links below. And in fact, if you're going to be at Con Carolinas, which is in a week or so from when
2
this is
weeks, yeah.
posted, yeah, 2 weeks from now, and I think probably about a week from when we post this, you can come talk to both of us at
Yep.
Con Carolinas, even at the same time if you want. So yeah, talk to Ed about his book, come back to the campaign and pre-order it for when it comes out. So we're looking forward to that. We are almost ready to start this campaign. And I hope you all enjoy these stories that are coming out. All right. Well, that is it for today. We will see you next time, and we'll see you at the beginning of the campaign very soon. All right. Bye bye.